They say a quiet life is a blessed one. Back then, I believed that. My name is Ravi. I'm 38 years old, living in a modest apartment in Bhavnagar, Gujarat. I work 2 jobs, days at the regional airport hangar as an aircraft mechanic, and nights teaching mechanical safety at a nearby vocational school. I'm not rich, but I'm proud of what I've built. I've lived by rules, by discipline, by habit. Fix what's broken, keep what works, and don't ask for more than you need. My wife Alicia always said she loved that about me. She worked as a receptionist at a small private clinic. Nothing flashy, but she liked being around people. Said it made her feel useful. She texted me almost every day while I was at work, sometimes a meme, sometimes just a simple miss you, come home safe. Even during the chaos of double shifts, those messages made me feel like a man coming home to something solid. Our apartment wasn't much, 1 bedroom, a small balcony facing a busy street, a kitchen with creaky cabinets, but it was ours. I used to look at the marks on the wall from where we once tried to hang our first picture frame and smile. The stains on the rug, the chipped tiles in the bathroom, even the wobbly fan above the bed, they were all pieces of our timeline. Each flaw carried a memory. A fight, a laugh, a late-night repair with a flashlight between my teeth, and Alicia teasing me about being her fixer man. She'd tell her friends that someday we'd open a car repair shop together, Ravi and Alicia's Auto Care. We even looked at a spot once, a shuttered garage near the old train yard. I told her to give me 5 more years of saving. She said she'd wait 10 if that's what it took. So I believed we were working towards something. Not flashy, not grand, but real. I started taking on extra hours, picked up a few freelance gigs helping with small engine diagnostics on weekends. Every rupee not spent went into our savings account. We even had a little notebook in the kitchen drawer labeled Garage Dream, with numbers, timelines, and sketches Alicia had doodled of what the reception area might look like. I remember once she bought a tiny desk bell, the kind you press to get service. Just a reminder, she laughed, setting it down next to our salt shaker, of what's coming. I loved her. I still do, maybe in ways I can't explain. The quiet moments between us meant everything. Late dinners on the balcony, sharing cold leftovers from the fridge. Her hair tied up in a messy bun while she watched those crime shows, legs tucked under her on the couch. Me pretending to care about the plots just so I could sit close and feel her warmth. For a long time, I believed that was enough. But the thing about quiet lives is they hide cracks. And when you don't hear the creaking, you assume the foundation is solid. I didn't know it then, but mine was already buckling. It was a Thursday night when everything started to shift. The kind of night that should have been forgettable, dusty shoes, stiff back, sweat clinging to my shirt from a long shift at the hangar followed by 3 hours lecturing about hydraulic line failures to half-awake students. By the time I got home, it was almost 10. My key barely turned in the lock, stiff as always. I made a mental note to oil it, again. I stepped into the hallway of our building, the scent of boiled rice and incense lingering in the air like always. That's when I heard it, my neighbor's door creaking open across the hall. Ravi by came a dry, hesitant voice. Mr. Bot. He was in his 60s, lived alone, always wore the same cotton kurta with coffee stains on the front and smelled vaguely of cloves and old paper. I turned to him, surprised. He rarely spoke unless someone greeted him first. Namaste, I said, trying to keep the fatigue out of my voice. He shuffled forward slightly, eyes darting down the hall like he was checking for witnesses. You just now coming from class? I nodded. Yes, sir. Thursdays are long. He gave a small, awkward chuckle, but his eyes didn't match the sound. Your wife's home, yes? I blinked, thrown off. Alicia? Yeah. She finishes her shift at 6. He nodded slowly, then looked over his shoulder again. His fingers fidgeted with the edge of his kurta. I don't want to interfere, Beta, he said, voice lowered. But sometimes, I notice things. I waited, unsure where this was going. There's been a man coming by, usually after 7. When you're gone. Always the same man. My stomach went tight, but I forced a laugh. Alicia's brother visits sometimes. Maybe it's him. Mr. Bot didn't smile. This man doesn't look like her brother. And he doesn't leave quickly. He stays. He said it gently, but the weight of it slammed into me like a wrench to the chest. I opened my mouth, then shut it. The hallway felt suddenly smaller. I'm sorry, Mr. Bot said, shaking his head. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's nothing. I just thought. You should know. He turned and slipped back into his apartment without waiting for a response. I stood there for a full minute, the hallway fan clicking overhead like a metronome counting the beats of my pulse. I wanted to laugh it off, and for a second I did. Alicia's brother had stayed over before. Maybe Mr. Bot saw them through the peephole and misread things. The man barely left his apartment. He might be confused. Right? But when I unlocked our door and stepped inside, the scent of sandalwood hit me, Alicia's favorite. The living room was quiet, spotless. She was already in bed, the glow of her phone lighting her face. Hey, she said, smiling at me like she always did. You look tired. Long day? I smiled back. Yeah, just glad to be home. She reached out and touched my arm, gently. Dinner's in the fridge. I'll heat it up. I nodded, heart heavy. I wanted to believe her smile. Wanted to believe in all the ordinary things. But that night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I couldn't shake the sound of Mr. Bot's voice. The way he said, always the same man. And how sure he sounded. It was the first time in our marriage I let doubt walk through the front door. I didn't know then, but it had no plans to leave. I didn't do anything drastic at first. I wanted to forget the whole thing, to chalk it up to paranoia, exhaustion, or just an old man reading too much into shadows behind a door. But I couldn't. By the end of the week, I found myself lingering outside the apartment building after class, waiting a few extra minutes before heading in, hoping to catch a glimpse of someone out of place. But nothing ever happened. Alicia greeted me each night with the same tired smile, the same kiss on the cheek, the same hot plate of reheated curry. But something had changed. It was subtle, how quickly she put down her phone when I walked in, or how she started locking the bedroom door before taking showers, something she'd never done in all the years we'd been together. I tried to tell myself it was all in my head. But when I looked at our wedding photo on the bookshelf, me in a borrowed suit, her in that simple blue sari she'd insisted on wearing, I couldn't meet my own eyes. I installed the cameras on a Sunday morning when Alicia left to visit her aunt in Rajkot. Tiny things. 2 for the living room and kitchen area, 1 just outside the bedroom door. Motion detecting, silent, synced directly to an app on my phone. I told myself it was just for peace of mind. Days passed. Nothing. Every clip was the same. Alicia walking through the living room, reheating leftovers, watching her crime shows curled up under a blanket. Sometimes she danced around in her socks to old Hindi songs playing on her phone, hair up in a bun. It made me smile. For a while, I started to feel ashamed for doubting her. Then came Thursday. I was in the break room at the vocational school, scrolling through notifications, when I saw the alert. Motion detected. 7:23 p.m. I nearly skipped over it until I saw the still frame. A man's back. Broad shoulders. Shirt tucked in. He was at our front door, stepping in like he'd done it 100 times. My thumb hovered over the play button. I pressed it. Alicia opened the door and smiled. Not her usual polite smile. This one was softer, slower, like it was meant only for him. They didn't speak at first. She touched his chest lightly, pulling him in. He laughed, low and easy, then leaned down and kissed her. I couldn't move. Couldn't blink. The video continued. Wine glasses clinking. His hand brushing her waist. Laughter echoing off our walls. And then, after a few minutes, he followed her into our bedroom. The bedroom where we had once painted the walls together. Where she kept her bangles in the drawer next to my wrench set. I watched him come out an hour later wearing my navy blue hoodie. The one Alicia used to wear on cold nights when she said she missed me. I didn't finish the footage. I didn't need to. I didn't cry. I didn't throw my phone. I just sat there, my lunch forgotten, the humming of the vending machine in the corner louder than anything else in the world. When I got home that night, Alicia was on the couch in pajamas, scrolling through Instagram. Long day? She asked, without looking up. Yeah, I said. Really long. She smiled. I saved you some dinner. I nodded, walking past her into the kitchen. I didn't say anything about the video. I didn't ask questions. I didn't scream or accuse. I just sat in silence, eating reheated rice while she hummed along to the TV. Because sometimes silence is louder than fury, and I wanted her to feel every bit of it. The next morning, I woke up early, before the sun. Alicia was still asleep beside me, breathing soft and steady, her back turned toward me like it always was now. I stared at the ceiling, trying to remember the last time I touched her without wondering who else had. That was the day I started planning my exit. I didn't slam doors. I didn't pack bags in a rage. I didn't even look at her differently. Instead, I became careful, quiet, strategic. First, I stopped depositing my salary into our joint account. I told Alicia I was switching banks because of a new promotion, better interest rates. She just shrugged and said, okay, just let me know when it's set up again. That was a Monday. On Tuesday, I opened a private savings account under a different name and started transferring our money bit by bit. Not enough to trigger suspicion, just a few thousand here and there. I kept a spreadsheet hidden inside an old folder labeled Airfield Blueprints. She never opened those. By the end of the first month, I'd moved almost everything. The offshore wallet came next. I used an old friend's address in Colombo and a burner phone to set it up. Transferring funds internationally is easier than people think when you've spent years working around tight airport security protocols. I told my boss at the hangar I was applying for a job in Hyderabad. He even gave me a reference. I handed in my resignation with a fabricated offer letter from a non-existent airline company. Same story at the vocational school, said I was relocating, thanked them for everything, and gave notice. Alicia didn't question any of it. She was distracted, always smiling at her phone, setting passwords on apps she never used to lock. Some nights she came home flushed, smelling of perfume she didn't wear for me. The detachment made it easier. I sold my motorbike one weekend while she was at the clinic. Told her I had lent it to a student for a few days. The cash went straight into my emergency fund. I even started walking home in the evenings, pretending I was enjoying the exercise. The truth was, I wanted no ties. No trace. Every night, I rehearsed my departure like choreography. Step 1. Leave at dawn. Step 2. Pack only a single duffel, passport, documents, cash, charger, clean shirt. Step 3. Leave behind everything that ever tied me to this version of life. No letters. No confrontation. No answers. I watched her in the evenings as she folded laundry, humming to herself like we were still fine. Sometimes I wondered if she knew. Maybe she assumed I'd never do anything. That I'd keep fixing things like I always did. She didn't see the difference in me. The silence she mistook for fatigue was something else entirely. It was resolve. Cold and sharp and final. The night before I left, I sat on the couch while she showered, the TV playing quietly in the background. Our apartment looked the same as always, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. I looked around and realized I wasn't leaving a home. I was walking away from a stage set built on lies. I had loved her. But now, I was done. And I wanted her to feel it, not in words or fights, but in absence. I didn't sleep that night. I laid in bed beside her, wide awake, staring at the outline of the ceiling fan as it turned lazily above us. Alicia was curled toward the wall, her breathing even, peaceful. I wondered if she dreamed about him, if she even remembered the sound of my voice anymore. At 4 a.m., I got up quietly, like I was heading to the airport for a red-eye shift. I didn't turn on the light, just moved through the dark, every step rehearsed. I took the small duffel I had hidden behind the water heater, packed 3 shirts, a pair of jeans, documents, some cash. That was it. No photos, no souvenirs, nothing sentimental. In the kitchen, I paused. The space was still, almost sacred. I looked at the worn edge of the countertop where we used to lean and talk about nothing, where she'd once scolded me for leaving oil-streaked fingerprints after work. The bell she'd bought for our dream garage was still on the shelf. I stared at it for a second, then turned away. I took off my wedding ring. It felt heavier than I expected. I set it on the counter beside the keys to the apartment. A clean goodbye. No note. No explanation. Just silence. By 4:30, I was outside on the street, the city still asleep. A few stray dogs barked somewhere in the distance. My shoes echoed faintly as I walked down the block. I didn't look back. At the train station, I bought a one-way ticket south under a different name. Just a man traveling light. No questions asked. I boarded the early train to Chennai as the first light crept over the horizon. The train rattled and hummed as it pulled away, the city shrinking behind me. I didn't feel free yet. Not exactly. Just untethered. Somewhere around Surat, my phone started buzzing. Messages. Missed calls. The first one was from Alicia. Where are you? Then, Ravi, this isn't funny. Did something happen? Then all caps. Did you leave? You took your stuff. Where did you go? I turned the phone off and dropped it into the trash bin near the restroom. By the time the sun was fully up, I was just a passenger staring out the window. No name. No job. No promises. Back at the apartment, I imagined Alicia waking to an empty bed, finding the ring on the counter, maybe calling the hangar to ask why I hadn't shown up. Maybe someone would tell her I'd quit weeks ago. Maybe she'd check the bank and find nothing. I pictured her confusion turning to panic. Panic to silence. And in that silence, maybe, just maybe, she'd feel the weight of what she'd broken. I didn't disappear out of vengeance. I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted out of a life I no longer recognized. And so, by sunrise, I was gone. The train took me to Chennai. From there, a cheap flight south. I didn't plan it all in detail, I just knew I wanted to be far away from the ghosts. Somewhere that didn't smell like old engine oil and betrayal. I ended up on a coastal island in southern Sri Lanka. Not touristy, not flashy. Just blue water, palm trees, and the kind of silence that doesn't ask anything of you. I rented a tiny shack near the dock, behind a fish market. The salt in the air stung my lungs at first. Everything smelled like diesel and brine. I liked it. It felt honest. The dockyard boss was a man named Gamini. He had a limp and a missing front tooth but didn't ask many questions. I told him I used to fix things. He handed me a wrench and pointed at a sputtering outboard engine. I got it running in 20 minutes. He grinned and said, "Start tomorrow. 6 a.m. So I started. Fixing boats instead of planes. Grease under my nails again, but no hangar buzz, no lectures. Just sun, sweat, and the satisfying clunk of metal sliding into place. Weeks passed like that. Then months. One afternoon, while picking up supplies from the small market near the temple, I met Mira. She ran a spice shop next to the tailor's. She was younger than me, maybe 30, with soft eyes and a laugh that felt like it was made of sunlight. She sold me cumin and chili powder for my sad attempts at cooking and asked, "You're not from here, are you?" I shrugged. Does it show? You wear your loneliness like a badge, she said, without judgment. Just fact. I smiled for the first time in weeks. It wasn't a fast romance. Nothing dramatic. No declarations, no music swelling in the background. Just cups of tea. Long walks along the shore. Her teaching me to cook rice without burning it. Me fixing her broken ceiling fan. We were two broken people who didn't ask each other for stories. She never asked about my past. I never asked about hers. A year later, we married quietly at the village registrar's office. No big ceremony. Just 2 signatures and a promise made without fanfare. When our daughter was born, I cried. She came into the world with a full head of dark hair and a scowl that made Mira laugh through the pain. We named her Tara. Every night, I held her close, whispering soft lullabies in a language that didn't belong to this place, but still made her calm. Fatherhood, the second time around, felt different. Not rushed, not heavy with expectations. It was soft, slow, sacred. I never used a fake name, but I stopped giving out my full one. People just called me Ravi the mechanic. And that was fine. That was enough. Sometimes I'd catch a song on the radio, an old Bollywood tune Alicia used to hum while brushing her hair, and something would shift in my chest. Not pain exactly. Just a memory. An echo. But it didn't follow me. The past became like an old scar, faded, painless, there if you looked close, but not something that ruled my days. I hadn't run away to forget. I left to begin. And in this quiet new life, with my hands stained by honest work and my daughter's giggle echoing through the yard, I found what I'd never had before. Peace. It had been 6 years. Tara was 5 now, all wild curls and scraped knees, racing between spice sacks and fishing nets like the whole island belonged to her. Mira said she had my stubbornness and her appetite. I said she had her own fire. We were at the Saturday market, the big one near the temple where vendors sold everything from papayas to plastic toys. Tara tugged my hand toward a stall with wooden spinning tops. I was half listening to her chatter about colors when I felt something shift. A pause in the crowd. A pull in the air. Like the moment before a storm. And then I saw her. Alicia. She was across the market, standing near a table of handmade soaps. Her hair was shorter now, streaked with gray. She looked thinner, drawn in the face, shoulders curled inward like someone who'd been holding in too many apologies. Her eyes scanned the crowd like she was searching for something. Or someone. Then they locked on me. She froze. I didn't move. Her mouth parted slightly. She blinked, like she couldn't believe it. Then, slowly, cautiously, she began walking toward us. Her steps were unsure, like each one hurt. She stopped a few feet away. Ravi, she said, barely a whisper. I looked at her, steady and silent. She was the same woman who had once texted me every night with hearts and misuse. And the same woman who had kissed someone else in my home while wearing my hoodie. She started, voice cracking. I didn't know. I didn't think I'd ever. I let go of Tara's hand and gently rested it on her head. She looked up at me with curious eyes, then at the woman standing in front of us. Alicia's eyes dropped to her. Her lips trembled. She's yours, she asked. I smiled softly and nodded. Her hand came to her mouth, her eyes wet. I looked for you. After you left. I didn't understand. I'm sorry, she whispered, tears clinging to her lashes. I was stupid. I thought you'd never leave. I thought. I met her gaze, firm and calm. Not cruel. Just done. I'm sorry, she said again. Can we talk? I studied her face, every line, every word unspoken between us. The years had not been kind to her. But that wasn't my burden anymore. I tilted my head slightly and spoke the only sentence I'd rehearsed in my mind 1,000 different ways. I'm sorry, do I know you? Her breath caught. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. Tara tugged my shirt. Appa, can I get the red one? I looked down at her, smiled, and nodded. Then turned back to Alicia, gave her a polite smile, and said nothing else. We walked away. Just me and my daughter, her small hand in mine. And behind us, in the middle of the crowd, the woman who once broke me stood alone, a ghost with no name, watching a life that no longer belonged to her.